Council meeting for Monday, April 3rd, 2017. I'd ask everyone in attendance to rise and join us in singing O Canada. Thank you to the National Film Board of Canada for the images of our country and to our very own Grand Prairie Boys Choir for the audio. Would look for a motion for the adoption of the previous council meeting minutes, please, from March 20th. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gill. I move the minutes of the City Council meeting held Monday, March 28, 2017 be approved.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor McLean. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Any errors or omissions that we need to correct? Seeing nothing, then I will call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries, and we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move that Council adopt the agenda as presented with the addition of 8.T, Grand Prairie Public Library Public Board Member appointments, board appointments, and 8.3, Downtown Program Recognition.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on the agenda as recommended? Again, seeing nobody ringing in, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries as well. And that brings us to the delegation portion of our agenda. This is an opportunity that we have at every regular City Council meeting for anyone to come forward and address Council on any community-related matter. We had one delegation let us know ahead of time that they wanted to speak, and that was Mr. Andrew Cho. Andrew, if you'd like to come forward, come on down to the presenters table there, find a spot in front of one of those microphones, and if there's anybody else that's going to join you, they're more than welcome. Have a seat, though, please.
I have something to hand out to you.
Sure, if you'd like, you can just pass to one of the council members and they'll pass it around. Thank you. Have a seat and welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, I actually...
Welcome.
Start?
Please.
Okay. My name's Andrew, and I would like to start by thanking you for giving me an opportunity to raise an issue, raise an awareness of this particular topic of high saturation of liquor stores in the city of Grande Prairie. I'm a resident here in the city of Grande Prairie since 2010, and since then I have seen some significant growth and developments in the city in the last 7 years. Every year, there are chains of new stores and buildings popping up throughout the city. At the same rate, the city approves more and more liquor stores to service the same population every year, making Grande Prairie #1 for the most liquor stores per capita, 1,448 per one. The ratios for larger cities like Calgary and Edmonton are about 3,333 to 1 and 2,468 to 1 respectively. Fort McMurray's population is close to Grand Prairie, about 61,374 people, but with only 24 liquor stores. Its customer base per liquor store is 2,557 to 1. There are currently 45 liquor stores here in the city, and 5 more to come this year alone. Here are some closely located liquor stores here in town. As you can see, I've put together a list of liquor stores that are really, really close in proximity. If you can take a look, Parkside Liquor Store and Jimmy's Liquor Store are only 83 meters apart. That is literally right next to each other. Another one being is GP Brewing Company, and they were supposed to be initially a brewery, but it turned into a liquor store at the same time, which makes it just only 110 meters away from a liquor store called Parkside Liquor. And another liquor store that is preparing to open is called SM Liquor, which is only 180 meters away from Town Center Mall Liquor. Not to mention that there were more liquor stores that closed in closer proximity. For example, the Safeway liquor store, it's a Liquor Depot liquor store in the Safeway Plaza in the south end of town, was only about 50 meters away from Liquor Barn that closed, which it closed about 2 years ago. Please tell me something. What is the plan for the building that is currently under construction located across from Liquor for Less on 97th Avenue and 100th Street? We've been informed by the Association of Downtown Association, that it is going to be another liquor store. Does it make sense to have 5 liquor stores in the 400 meter radius in the downtown area? Do we need another liquor store in the area? I understand that this topic of conversation was visited in December of 2011, but no action was taken. The topic was revisited in November of 2012, but the council voted against adding a liquor store limit. I believe as the city grows, rules need to change. It is time to enforce a regulation to limit liquor stores in mature areas of the city where liquor stores already flourish. Different regulations may be required for different areas and neighborhoods. I do not want my city to be perceived as a city with liquor stores in every corner and block. Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much, Mr. Cho. And this is an opportunity for questions from council for the delegation. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I remember that vote in 2012, and I wanted some change, but maybe it takes a little while to learn when you have one everywhere. Did you notice with the increase in liquor store businesses that are going out of business as well?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And when you talk about 80-some meters, you're saying like 150 feet, or... And I have one more question for you.
I'm not exactly sure what that is in feet, but 83 meters is literally across a small street.
Okay.
Yeah.
And another one I want to ask you, Andrew, is it was brought up before, but we just, it's okay, put a liquor store across from a school. We don't have no meters from schools. Do you know if Calgary Edmonton has any distance that, a school's going to be put up here, so across the street there'll be a strip mall, so let's open a liquor store. Do you know if they have any rules in place? Did you guys look into that?
Yes, they do.
They do, and we don't, for sure.
We don't.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor O'Toole.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew, for being here. Like it was mentioned earlier, you said we talked about this in 2011, 2012. You're coming here with a concern. Do you have a solution? How would you put an end to all the new liquor stores coming in? What would your game plan be?
If I were to create a regulation to limit liquor stores, just like I said in the last paragraph, maybe putting a distance bylaw for mature areas would be a great idea to give people, I lost my train of thought, but maybe I should say in newly developing districts of the city, there are bigger shopping malls that contain big box stores, wholesalers or whatnot that liquor stores can get into. But in mature areas like downtown area, there should be a distance bylaw to limit the distances between liquor stores. That's what I would do.
So you're saying possibly a radius around that particular plot of land that nothing can...
Yes, just like other bigger cities like Slave Lake, Calgary, and Edmonton, maybe a 500-meter distance law or a kilometer like Calgary.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just to finish up a couple quick questions. One was just the fact, did you notice, I don't know how long you've been in, Andrew, I know a few other faces have been in the city a long time. I think in 91 when we were 27,000, we had one liquor store and it was privatized. So now we have, you're saying we're going to have 50.
Yes, right now there are 45 up and running liquor stores and 5 more to come this year alone from what I've heard from the AGLC.
And a final question, were you able to talk to a lot of the liquor store owners and have a get together and have signatures brought forward? Did you do anything like that?
Yes, we are about to establish a committee between independent liquor store owners in particular, because we're the ones that could actually step up and do something about this. And the faces that you see today, including myself, we are very encouraged to create a committee ourselves to protect ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew, for coming in today. I'm trying to understand what exactly the concern is. So you talk about the perception of having multiple liquor stores. So you think that's a negative perception for the community to have? Is that the main reason?
That is a topic of the conversation today, the issue that I'm trying to raise. I have even Downtown Association have also expressed their concern about the saturation of liquor stores, especially in that particular area of downtown. And they are specifically worried about that new construction across from 7-Eleven on I believe it's on 97th Avenue and 100th Street, becoming a liquor store. And I believe it was a lady named Helen that raised an issue.
So you believe that it's negative. It makes the community not look good if there's multiple liquor stores in a close area. Is that the main concern?
Yes, that is the main concern of this topic, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Tarrant. I don't see anybody else in the queue with questions other than Councillor McLean, who just rang in. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. You're about to close it, and I had one on my mind. We know other studies, there's studies in cities, if you do over 30 kilometers, child's dead, and depending on how far you go up in kilometers residential. Have you done studies related to crime? Because we do remember the last few years we've led the way in crime in the country if you have too many liquor stores.
I have looked into a lot of previous researches done in correlations to number of liquor stores and crime rates. There are studies that indicate that they are relevant, and some indicate that they are not relevant. So I thought it was inappropriate for me to bring that up at this time.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, now I really don't see anybody else in the queue. And so just so that you and the other delegates that came tonight know, so we typically will deal with issues that come up in our delegation business towards the end of our agenda. So you're more than welcome to hang out and watch the entire meeting because it's very fun. If you choose not to do that and go on with the rest of your evening, we will deal with delegation business at the end. The most likely outcome is that we would refer this issue to the appropriate standing committee for discussion. So it's unlikely that council would make a decision here tonight on this topic, but it would go back to the committee where we could ask administration to do some research for us. And so it would be the start of the discussion on this topic. And we can certainly follow up with you after the council meeting so that you would know what council chose to do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Thanks. I see a number of other members in the crowd that were referenced by Mr. Cho saying that they were here on the same issue as well. And so we'll acknowledge the fact that there are a number of people here with respect to this issue. Was there anybody else that wished to make a presentation to council tonight on this topic, adding anything new or any other topic? Was there anybody else that wished to come forward to discuss any other topic? Okay. So seeing none, I'll just remind the public that this opportunity does exist to raise an issue with council and get it into the process. We do this every regular city council meeting, and so anybody is welcome to come to any council meeting and bring an issue forward this way. I will close the delegation portion of our agenda. We'll move through public hearings because we have none tonight. And we have no items of unfinished business, and that would take us to reports, starting with item 8.1, the strategic priorities chart. And Mr. City Manager, who's going to be introducing that piece of business? Was that going to be you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll go through it at a highlight level. This initiative obviously predates my participation in the city, and so the senior management team is here today and would be prepared to respond to any questions and details. The priorities have been amended as a result of review to include the progress on the downtown enhancement plan and to include the intermunicipal collaboration framework that is now underway with the town of Sexsmith and other regional municipality. The chart also now includes the tri-municipal partnership that has recently been announced between the municipal district of Greenview, the County of Grande Prairie, and the City of Grande Prairie. That initiative is now underway. Turning attention to the chart itself, there are a number of priority areas that we have achieved some progress on and updated some target dates. The first two relate to the downtown enhancement plan itself. For the most part, these are being handled through regular updates to the Community Safety Committee, and there will be another such update in June of this year. We're also looking at the Downtown Enhancement Plan Phases 3 and 4, and that RFP award is on the agenda for this evening for Phase 3 and 4 design. So that has an April target date, and that is this meeting that it's referring to. We also had a priority area, Council had a priority area to explore alternate governance and revenue sharing models. And that pre-work is underway as well. We're working very closely with Sexsmith and other regional municipalities to establish baseline information for the ICF. We also have a RFP out to ensure that we get a good, solid, objective, professional perspective on this effort as well. And again, the tri-municipal partnership is now in, or has been identified as a council priority, and the business plan, budgets, and needs assessments are being conducted. We have several meetings scheduled, several meetings now concluded with that group and looking at putting together a very solid partnership. In terms of advocacy, the affordable housing and supports funding priority is also very current for us, and new capital funds are being reviewed as potentially available from the provincial and federal governments. So we're on top of trying to optimize anything that we can achieve from those levels of governments in terms of support for affordable housing. Regional transportation priorities, we're continuing with our communications and advocacy on priority projects, and specifically Highway 40, 43, and a list of regional projects. Council has also identified advocacy priorities in terms of police funding and the framework surrounding that funding, and we're continuing to advocate for change, review, and advocating on a proposal or proposed agreement by AOMA and AAMD&C that will hopefully start to address what we're perceiving to be issues in the police funding framework. The Municipal Government Act itself, as Council is well aware, is under very significant review. The potential amendments were introduced or have been introduced in the spring, and we're expecting that they will be passed in the fall of 2017. Your administration is very closely monitoring these and has been participating along with Council in discussions along those lines. We also work with both the federal government and the provincial government on relationships with those respective governments. Strategy is being developed for June, so a target date of June, to assist in the advocacy of local priorities at both the federal government level and the provincial government level. So at a high level, Mr. Chairman and members of City Council, these are the updates to the priorities, both in terms of council priorities and advocacy priorities, as we've been able to achieve them to this point.
Thanks very much, Mr. City Manager. Can I have a motion to adopt the strategic priorities chart as presented? Councillor McLean.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor McLean. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. And that'll take us to item 8.2, appointments to the Grande Prairie Public Library Board. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move that council approve the following two appointments to the Grande Prairie Public Library Board. Adele Bonetti, whose term would commence immediately and end December 31st, 2019, and Michael Dodlin, whose appointment would commence immediately and end a term ending December 31st, 2018.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on that motion? Seeing nobody in the queue, no discussion or debate, then I will call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. That will take us to our next agenda item. This item is a bit of an update for council with respect to our downtown incentive program. As council knows, we approved that program in 2016. The program is led by our economic development and planning departments in collaboration. This program has been managed by Brian Glavin, our manager of economic development, land and communications, Rebecca Lee, marketing and research coordinator, economic development, and Reed DeRoche, senior planner with City of Grande Prairie. The program has been a tremendous success to date. Just under $900,000 has been awarded in grants to downtown businesses for their facade improvement program. And those 27 businesses have leveraged that program into essentially $3.5 million of investment in our downtown core, which has been a fantastic result. Certainly want to acknowledge the efforts of our staff in putting that together and implementing something that was out of council's strategic plan in a way that has yielded a very positive result. We don't bring it up today just to acknowledge and pat ourselves on the back. Really, this is an opportunity to recognize that this is a best-in-class program, and that recognition isn't just us saying so. In fact, it's actually the Economic Developers Association of Alberta, who recently recognized the City of Grande Prairie's award for business the Downtown Incentives Program under their Business Retention and Expansion in the medium-sized community category. So the City of Grande Prairie Downtown Incentives Program was recognized provincially as best in medium-sized cities. And the program was also the recipient of the Alex Metcalf Award in the Business Retention and Expansion category as the best of the best community projects across all community sizes. So I just want to thank our staff for their fantastic work in implementing this program in a way that, first off, has delivered a fantastic return to our residents and to our downtown businesses, but also has shone a light on the great work that Grande Prairie does. The other thing that I wanted to do was to recognize that that department is led by none other than our own Brian Glavin, who was also recognized at the same awards gala as the outstanding young professional for his contribution to the economic development profession through his work here at the City of Grande Prairie. And so we want to take this opportunity to recognize the fantastic work of our team at the City of Grande Prairie, who implemented a program in such a great way that it won provincial recognition, but also Mr. Glavin, who's being recognized for his professionalism at this stage in his career. Brian, congratulations. I see Ms. Lee and Mr. Roche here as well, and I want to thank you both for doing such a fantastic job of shepherding the Downtown Incentives Program. I know that the business owners that have participated have been appreciative, and the change is literally visible in our downtown, and so thank you so much for your efforts in designing that program and implementing it in such a professional way. Thank you. Could I have a motion from somebody on council to receive this program update and recognition for information? Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move that we accept this for information.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. That was all a little bit of an excuse to embarrass Brian and recognize the good work of our staff. So thanks for that indulgence, Council. I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. And that'll bring us to the Community Growth Committee meeting from March 21st. Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Nothing in regards to items that council needs to vote on. However, I have a couple updates.
We do first have to vote on
I will, let me finish. Make a motion that council receive the minutes of the Community Growth meeting held Tuesday, March 21st as presented.
Thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Seeing none, please vote. Thank you very much. Councillor Clayton, was there anything that you wanted to update us on from that meeting?
Thank you. Yeah, a couple highlights. During that meeting, we had a report in regards to change of the NDP and LUB. In regards to public engagement processes, a report's going to come back to committee for that. We're going ahead with a RFP on the transit solar project design, so that was great news. And the last piece, we had a delegation a few council meetings ago come to council and talk about the City of Grand Prairie's electronic messaging signs, and how, although ours were in compliance with the standards when those signs were instituted, they weren't currently in compliance with today's standards. So the delegation brought that to our attention, and in turn, administration went out, had checked these signs, and I'm happy to say that the report to committee was that now all the City of Grand Prairie signs are in concurrence with the standards of today.
Excellent. Great. Thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. That'll take us to item 9.2 in the Community Living Committee meeting from March 21st. Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I will move the community living minutes of March 21st.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Any errors or omissions that we need to correct? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I have a couple motions coming out of committee. The first one is that I would move that council approve policy 317, being the large-scale tourism events policy as presented. So as council's aware, it was a direction from council to implement this policy, and the committee had some back and forth with administration in terms of some of the content of the policy and the procedure, and this is what committee has decided to forward. In a nutshell, the definition of a large-scale tourism event is a ticketed multi-day event that has an expectation of over 2,000 people to attend, and then there's a number of procedures that would further clarify what is required for this funding. And with that, I will turn it over to council to decide.
Okay, so open for discussion and debate on the motion to approve policy 317. So in our council package, there are two portions of that, and so Councillor Tarrant is moving first the policy separate on itself. Okay, so we're discussing the policy, and then I assume there would be a follow-up motion with respect to the funding to activate that policy. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question, Councillor Tarrant to answer it, or the right standing committee, which would be the one. I noticed if you received funding within the year, so say this year, from Arts, Pursuit of Excellence of Arts, did we also include where some of them are also guaranteed money, like the boys choir, the downtown street performers? Shouldn't they be included as well, or is that just left out for a reason, or is that included as well?
Councillor Tarrant.
I think the intent of having this policy was so that we wouldn't have to have one-offs. As you recall, there was a festival that came forward, and this was what initiated this conversation. And council not wanting to have just one-offs for these events, that it would be a policy in place so that organizations could come forward, and there'd be certain guidelines and criteria that would be followed in order to get that funding. And so, obviously any organization still has the ability to ask outside of any funds council has to ask at budget time for additional funding. But I think the intent of council would be to streamline those requests through this policy.
So, okay, to finish up my question, I don't think it was answered, maybe Gary Roth. So will it leave the door open for the 3 or 4 we have that automatically guarantee them 10, 12 grand a year to ask for the funding? Because we're saying to a certain group, if you receive money under Pursuit of Excellence or an arts committee, you shall not receive. And we had never said it for another group that we have that are distinguished where they guarantee money. Was that a lapse to do that? Or I'd like to have an answer on it.
So, Councillor McLean, I think the policy would equally apply to anybody that wished to come forward and attempt to apply under it. The main thing is around the definition, as Councillor Tarrant highlighted. Only events that are ticketed, first off. So things like the Street Performance Festival, for example, there are no tickets to the Street Performance Festival, so it would not qualify. Or where they have attendance, a multi-day event, so a single-day event would not qualify. Where they have attendance of greater than 2,000 people per day. And so it is intentionally narrow in scope. That does not preclude any existing event that meets that criteria from coming forward. In the administration procedure related to this, I think it does, it actually does specify that they may not receive, in the related information, it specifies that they may not receive Arts Development Festival funding or Pursuit of Excellence funding, and also receive this. So that they would either have to make a choice, whether they wanted festival funding or this. It does not address any other events that are budgeted for in the city's budget in a different way. So if they meet all the criteria, they could apply. But if they've received Arts Development Festival funding or Pursuit of Excellence funding, they would have to consider whether they wanted to have that festival funding or Arts Development funding, or the large-scale tourism event funding. Does that clarify it?
Yeah, but this, I'm just wondering, I know the street performers don't charge, but I just was wondering about that.
They would not qualify.
Not qualify.
That would not qualify for this. Yeah. It would have to be a ticketed event. Yeah. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Just a couple of questions. So this year we've had some funding go out with the arts development, and say somebody was to approach the large-scale funding, could they deny the festival funding and go with the large-scale funding?
So just to clarify your question, I'll turn it to administration, but so the question is on the premise if somebody has already been granted funding, hasn't used it, and they wish to apply for this, would they have to turn back the other funding? Is that?
No, would they be disqualified if they turn back the other funding? So event A decides that they've been granted some festival funding. Now they're going to apply for the large-scale event, and they will suggest that they will deny the arts funding if they can go for a larger grant with the year.
They would turn back. They would give back the previous funding. That's what your question is. Mr. Roth?
So, Your Worship, certainly we'd have to look at the merits of each application. If that's what was proposed, I wouldn't see any reason why administration wouldn't make a recommendation that the large-scale tourism funding be endorsed if they were willing to abandon their arts development fund allotment.
I think the key intent is that there wouldn't be double dipping, I guess, is the easiest way to explain.
Well, that would get rid of the double dipping, but then it would also free up more money for the arts development.
Exactly. That was
obviously shy this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the other question I had is, what was it now? Gosh. Is there a cap on the amount that one could apply for? Like, could somebody come in at the beginning of the year and ask for $200,000?
Director Roth?
Mr. Chair, or Your Worship, certainly there has not been a cap discussed at this point in time. There is an amount allotted for the year, and I think it's up to administration to make recommendations to committee, who would make recommendations to council around how that would get divvied up.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just a quick comment on Councillor O'Toole's first question. I think that would be very fair, given this year's situation context, because we've already awarded something before this new funding became available. So I would hope administration would look at that flexibility for this year. Next year, then we're kind of starting afresh, and they can people can make their decisions. But I would hate to discount somebody applying this year just because of something that happened midway year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Just a quick question, Director Gary, as well. What I'm trying to reach out and get maybe an answer to is, say a festival's brand new and they pretty well hit a brick wall because they overestimate or whatever. Are we going to have a system in place where we could actually thoroughly go through their accounting and their books and the numbers they present to council, where they might be awarded monies and what they've been saying they paid out for? Where are we going to actually have a process to really look over what's been brought forward to us?
Director Roth?
As part of the procedure, we certainly are requiring that organizations, as part of their application, produce a budget as well as full accounting after the fact to be able to justify their grant allotment. Certainly, it's built into the procedure to already cover that. So the answer is yes.
Thanks very much, Director Roth. Any other discussion or debate on the policy? Okay, I don't see anybody else in the queue, so I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Sorry, Councillor Clayton. The discussion is currently on adopting policy 317, not with respect to funding. Councillor Tarrant did from the committee.
So sorry, then I want to speak against the motion. I thought we were just doing questions for administration. So my apologies for that. I have some concerns with this policy, although I absolutely support the initiative. I feel that the policy as structured is a little loose. I feel there should be criteria levels based on the size of the event. And I think that, to me, tourism is an economic driver, and so as it being part of living is a little bit of a concern to me. I feel that it should be part of community growth. So coming back to community living for discussions concerns me a little bit. The $200,000 is, although for large-scale events, it could,
just to clarify, we're talking just about the policy itself.
For
right
sure,
now, so.
yeah. And so I approve I absolutely understand the intent of this, but I can't support this policy based on what's in front of us tonight. Sorry.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Given. In response to Councillor Clayton, there is further, so we're not included in the package right now, but there are further procedures that have more details and criteria over and above what's just in the policy. So there is more specific, and I wonder if maybe administration would be able to just really quickly, because there was an extensive list, but to highlight some of those other guidelines within the procedure.
Director Roth, do you have that at your clicking fingertips? I can see Director Roth is calling that up, and yes, while he's doing that, fair point to raise to see a little bit more detail. I mean, the intent is to have the council policy speaking about why we do this, and the high-level definitions. The administrative procedure gets in a bit more detail, and that may answer some of the questions. Director Roth.
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly some of the criteria, there's specific criteria around tourism draw, specifically to the radius, having radius limits as to where the tourism reach has to be beyond, and that's consistent with Alberta tourism. Of course, the event has to take place within the city of Grande Prairie or the county of Grande Prairie at the Evergreen Park location only, and that was, I think the intent was because events at Evergreen Park also have economic benefit to the city. Weather cannot be a factor. In other words, there has to be an alternative plan for the event to proceed, even if it's rain or shine. Funding can be used to leverage provincial and federal funding, including Alberta tourism funding. Just looking at a couple other criteria, bear with me. Certainly, the applicant must provide proof of quality of sustainability of the event. So that's in relation to what Councillor McLean had raised earlier through submission of budget, business plan, and certainly accountability after the fact. The process that's identified in the procedure would see administration receiving applications, recommendation be made through CLT to committee to council. So there's certainly a vetting process that's very similar to the community group funding process where that similar function happens. Just looking to see if there's any other highlights. Certainly there's also a requirement that if it's possible, knowing that not every, there's some challenges to doing this with every event, but any definition or any inclusion of their definitive statement around our economic impact of the event is certainly encouraged to come forward. As I said, there's some challenges with doing that with certain events, but that's certainly something that's being factored. I think that's about it in terms of the detail.
Sure. And Director Roth, can you just clarify one thing for me? In the policy itself, does it specify where those recommendations would be made to? Councillor Clayton just sort of raised something for me that about sort of where it reports on, but I don't believe that that's specified in the policy, is it?
Your Worship, that's specified in the procedure.
Okay. So just I guess that's one thing for me, Councillor Clayton, is that the policy itself doesn't say where the recommendations will come to. If council had specific input on that, we could give that to administration. But ultimately, any recommendation that went to committee would have to be approved by all of council. So, Councillor Clayton.
So I would like to make an amendment to the motion. I would move that council support the large-scale tourism events to an annual contribution of $100,000.
Okay, so right now, Councillor Tarrant has made a motion that council adopt the policy. Yep. Full stop, just the policy. So we can...
so can I speak to that then?
Yep, absolutely.
So speaking to that, as I mentioned, I think that this is a great initiative. Grande Prairie absolutely needs more focus on tourism. As a council, we've set it as a priority. We see the value in it. Sport tourism, conference tourism, all of it it's an integral part of our entrepreneurs in Grande Prairie. I just don't think this policy is quite ready to be here and to be voted on today.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Any other discussion or debate? I don't. Councillor Tarrant, to close.
Sorry, Margaret, I just, is there a specific, this went through a lot of vetting with committee, and we went back and forth several times. So I'm just wondering, Councillor Clayton, is there anything specific in the policy that you think that committee overlooked or that should be added?
Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mayor Given. To Councillor Tarrant, I think that first of all, for out of the gate, it's too much money to invest without knowing what we are to expect. Large-scale tourism events don't happen overnight, and so for tourism events to come to us after the fact because maybe their ends didn't meet, I think that we put this in the next budget, but that it's not available to a year after. There's more details in my mind that take place in a large-scale tourism event, and it needs more finite criteria for me.
Okay. Question asked, answer given. Any other discussion or debate? I don't see any. I'll just take the opportunity to encourage council to support the motion for the policy. Appreciate there is a level of detail that's covered in the administrative procedure. It may not show up in the policy. The policy speaks to council's intent to support large-scale events that have an economic impact in our community. This was something that was raised at budget last fall and certainly is an outcome of the experience we had with the Bear Creek Folk Music Festival. But at the time, council said we need to have a more proactive, planned, and consistent way of funding these large events that we all, I think everybody around the council table supports and wants to see. So this is that planned, proactive, and consistent approach to doing that. And I would encourage council members to support the motion. I don't see anybody else in the queue, so I will call for the vote. on adopting policy 317. Please vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I will move that council approve the amount of $200,000 to be added to the 2017 operating budget to help facilitate policy 317. You know, in speaking to that, I think that there, you know, council always has the ability up. We hear it every year up until the mill rate bylaw is passed. You know, and I think that should this, you know, be passed, we certainly have that ability to move to change it once we hear the fuller budget picture once the mill rate comes down.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Any discussion or debate? I don't see anybody in the Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Yeah, we do have that opportunity, but I'm not comfortable with that amount being referred to budget. So I won't be supporting the 200,000. My level of comfort was similar to Councillor Clayton's, around the $100,000 mark. It's a start, and we see what the take-up is, and we review that on an annual basis in terms of where we should be going with respect to the funding for this, I think, supportive policy.
So, Councillor Radburn, are you moving an amendment, or?
If this fails, so let's do the amendment. Okay. I would move that the Councillor Tarrant's motion be amended in the amount being 100,000.
Okay, so that motion's on the floor. So we'll have discussion and debate on the amendment to reflect the funding at $100,000. Councillor O'Toole, are you prepared to speak on the amendment? You were in the queue there before, so. You just have to turn your microphone on yourself.
I've got another question, but after the vote.
Yep. Okay, Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I encourage council to support this amendment. I think that $100,000 is a good place to start. And although I initially don't support the policy, it was for criteria reasons, in my opinion, but the $100,000 gives us a place to put into the next budget. In the meantime, administration can sort of bring back the finite rules and standards and be put forward to the next budget. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Clayton. Any other discussion or debate on the amendment? I will just say, while I'm waiting to see, that I won't be supporting the amendment. I support the original, or the amount contained in the motion of $200,000. In speaking to that, administration's initial recommendation was $500,000. At the committee level, the committee chose to vary that and recommend only $200,000. And I think when we're talking about large-scale tourism events, I think there are at least 2 existing events in our community that would both meet that criteria fairly easily. If we are in a situation this year where we have to choose one or the other, that would be unfortunate. In my view, it's maybe fine to prioritize. Or whether if they both got something that was similar to what they could get through arts festival funding, then I would really question why we bothered to have a large-scale festival fund, a tourism event fund. So I support the original amount and won't be supporting the amendment. Any other discussion or debate? I don't see anybody in the queue. Councillor O'Toole, is yours on your question after? Okay, so we'll call for the vote on Councillor Radburn's amendment to amend the amount to reflect $100,000. Please vote. Thank you. That motion does not carry. I'm sorry, I have to do my math all over the place, and I can't. Okay, so that motion does not carry, and so we're back to discussion and debate on the main motion. Councillor O'Toole, did you have a point on the main motion, the amount of $200,000? And you have to get your microphone.
Mayor Gibbon, I just had a concern. I feel that I don't want all the money to go to one group, and I'd like to put a percentage of no more than 25% of the pot to anyone. So if there's $200,000, if that's what this number will be, I think the maximum anybody could get from that funding would be $50,000. That way, there's still money to share if we had 2 or 3 groups or 4 groups.
Okay, so that would be so this motion is focused on the amount of money that we'll include in the budget. That may be an issue that we could either refer to the appropriate standing committee to give administration some direction on what to include in the procedure. That would be one way to do it, but this motion is specific to the funding. And so you're talking about an inclusion in a procedure of how we would deal with the funding.
Councillor Clayton had a few points there that were quite correct. We're not really sure exactly what we're voting for right now. We have an idea, and I understand, and I appreciate the concept, and I'm going forward with this, but I still think we need to figure out some fine lines before we give out any money, is my concern.
Okay, so that, again, I think that may be a follow-up motion.
Yep.
Of referring an issue to the appropriate standing, back to community living in this case, to review that procedure or to give administration some additional input on that procedure if it's required. That's
fair enough.
Is that a fair enough way? So we would deal with the motion on the inclusion for the operating budget, and then if there's a follow-up to that, then that'd be the time. Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Clayton?
Yeah, my question as well is more of a procedural thing for administration. So if we get through this motion, I'll make a follow-up motion in regards to that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Any other discussion or debate on the motion as originally made of $200,000 being added to the 2017 operating budget? I don't see anybody in the queue, so I will call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. And that motion does carry. Councillor Clayton, you had a follow-up motion?
I would move that council direct administration, I guess community living for that matter, to come back to council with further details.
Maybe
input. What are we looking
so maybe refer the issue of administrative, refer the issue of input on administrative procedure to the appropriate standing committee.
Thank you.
That'll bring it back. Council doesn't typically get into administrative procedures, but this is a new program, and I guess we could be looking at it as program criteria. I would hesitate if we were getting too far into administrative procedures in any other area, but this is, like I say, a new program, and it's really about program criteria is the concern that I hear, and so just referring that issue for review back to the appropriate standing committee. That motion would be in order. The one thing that I would say is it will be incumbent upon any council members that have concerns about that criteria or specific things that they'd like to see reflected, attend that committee meeting when they know that it's on the agenda to be able to give that input. Because as Councillor Tarrant said, the administrative procedure and the policy were at committee a couple of times, and committee had some direct input on what was and wasn't included. Councillor O'Toole?
Just a question for administration, Mayor Given. I was just wondering if all goes well, when could we see the distribution of funds once upon request has been made?
So, the key part there, when a request has been made, right? This ultimately will be up to any organization to come and apply, demonstrate that they meet the criteria. But then the end part of that is when would administration be ready to accept applications? Director Roth?
So certainly administration is ready to receive applications within a fairly short timeline. Just a matter of getting applications on the website and being ready to go with that. Certainly as applications come in, they would be brought through the appropriate channel as based upon meeting schedules.
Are we looking at possibly end of June?
Director Roth?
Potentially. Applications could be received within the next month, potentially, but it does, obviously would take some time to make its way through the approval stages.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Clayton?
Mayor, given as a motion not to put this forward for the next budget, so how would people apply prior to the next budget being approved?
Oh, so the motion is to add the amount to the 2017, this current year operating budget. And council can do that because we have not approved the mill rate yet. So the budget is not fixed until council adopts and approves the mill rate in the next couple of weeks here. April 25th, the city treasurer tells me. Any other discussion or debate? Seeing none, now we had a referral motion. Is that where we were? Okay, thank you. Okay, so Councillor Clayton's motion to refer back to the appropriate standing committee. I'll call for a vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries, so the issue will come back at a standing committee. Administration can present the administrative procedures, and council members that have input will be able to give that input at that time. Councillor Tarrant, you only had one agenda item coming out of the committee meeting, but we ended up with a fair bit of discussion, debate, and motions coming out of that one. Do you want to try your luck with anything else, or did you have any other updates for council?
You'll notice there's one other item that we had significant discussion on, but I will speak to that. It comes on later in the agenda. It's the notice to motion. The only other item that we talked about was the Eastlink Center. Talked about proposed access points and security cameras. We got an update from an administration on in terms of some of the changes that will be coming to Eastlink Center in terms of controlling some of the access points and in terms of some of the issues with security cameras and what's being done to help mitigate some of those issues. So I encourage council to look at that agenda to get more info if that's required.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. We'll move on to 9.3, the Community Safety Committee meeting from March 28th. Councillor Thiessen was chairing that one, but I think Councillor O'Toole's offered to step in and handle the minutes and the business arising. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I move the council receive the minutes for the Community Safety Committee meeting held Tuesday, March 28th, 2017, as presented.
Thanks very much. Councillor O'Toole, any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? No errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor O'Toole.
I've got a number of motions to make here, 4, so I'll just go ahead. I move the council approve the request to extend the period for subdivision registration for 1 year to March 17th, 2018 for subdivision Z 14-0039. And to just speak on that, this is not something that's uncommon. It does happen from time to time, and it's just an extension due to the economic situation in Grande Prairie.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any discussion or debate on the motion? I don't see anybody ringing in. I will call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. Motion carries. Councillor O'Toole.
I've got one more. I move the council request to extend the period for subdivision registration for 1 year to April 6, 2018 for subdivision Z15-0005. Once again, it's something that we do on a somewhat regular basis.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor O'Toole.
Okay. I move the council award tender T-18-552-17 to Canelson Sand and Gravel Limited in the amount of $1,969,031.78, exclusive of GST, as the lowest bid meeting city specification. And this is for a road rehabilitation and overlay phase 2. Just to give you a little bit of inside information, the tenders did come in cheaper than what the city expected. So there may be a possibility of extra money so we can get more stuff done.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Just to clarify, there's no extra money. It's just we can get money. We'll get money. We'll get more done with the money.
You don't have to spend as much to get this work done.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Just to maybe identify that the improvements in this were on 116th Street, just north of Costco, and on the eastbound lanes of 84th Avenue, just north of the Grand Prairie Cemetery, and one other area leading into the Highland Park neighborhood off of 84th Avenue as well. So some significant portions of our community, which anybody that drives them will recognize, they will benefit from this work. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor O'Toole.
Okay, I move the council award RFP-10-552-17 for the engineering, consulting, and landscape architectural services for the downtown rehabilitation and streetscape upgrades, phases 3 and 4, which will be on 100th Avenue, to ISL Engineering and Land Services Limited in the amount of $1,710,172.00, exclusive of GST, as the highest evaluated proponent meeting city specifications. And with speaking of that, this was just the engineering services. This is not the awarding of the whole project. That will be coming up with next council.
Councillor O'Toole, is the intent to get, I guess, a level of information that would allow the next council to understand the specific budget implications of the construction?
Absolutely. The spending of this money, which will not be all of this, but it will allow the consultants to come up with an idea what needs to be done. And so next council in the fall will have a good idea, a good concept on what kind of money and what kind of work it will need to be done.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Just 2 questions. I think it's a very positive move for the next council to have this done, because they can decide then if we want to go with phase 3 or 4 and not start digging in July or August, which we had to through the RFP process. And they actually start digging in April if they decide to, so it's way ahead of the game. I think it's very, very positive. Did we actually receive some of this money because there was extra savings in the downtown overall picture? Is this coming out of the 20 million? Was this some savings? Can that question be directed to the director or Asheville Community Secretary?
Director Galante, do you want to speak to the funding source for this project?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is correct, Councillor McLean. This amount awarded tonight is part of the original $20 million approved by Council as part of the 2014-2018 budget cycle. So we're using remaining funds from that pot to fund the design component for phase 3 and 4 of the downtown project. In mini budget time in November, Council will have a Class C cost estimate as part of this design with the construction cost for phase 3 and 4, and at that time, Council may decide to proceed or not with the construction stages.
Okay. Thanks very much, Director Galante. That clarification. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Any other discussion or debate on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor O'Toole, anything else to highlight from that set of minutes?
No, I think I've spoke long enough. We'll give my voice a chance and get the next party on the board. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. So I guess that next party on the board, Councillor Radburn, well known as a party. 9.4 is the Corporate Services Committee meeting for March 28th. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move council receive the minutes of the Corporate Service Committee meeting held Tuesday, March 28th, 2017, as presented.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Any highlights you'd like to share from that committee?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Just quickly, at our party, we talked about AMSC energy program and looking at history in terms of how the aggregation program is compared to the market rate. Yeah, it was, I guess, a good update for us all in terms of where the program is moving and how it's been effective for us.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
And secondly, we did direct administration to to develop 2 budget scenarios in addition to the current status quo, one of 0% increase, one of 3% increase, that would be integrated into the budget process for next fall. So we're leaving that up to administration to work with the new council to ensure that that information is available for the new council. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. I don't see anybody in the queue. We have no items of correspondence. We did have our delegation business this evening. That's item 11. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gill. I'd like to make a motion to refer the subject of saturation of liquor stores from Andrew to the appropriate standing committee, which I do believe safety, but to the appropriate standing committee.
Okay. That's great. Thanks very much, Councillor McLean. And administration will determine which would be the appropriate standing committee, because it also may be a land use bylaw issue, which would come under community growth. So administration will review that. So the outcome, if council approves this motion, would be that it be referred to committee. Mr. Cho, administration would let you know when that would show up on the committee, so you or anybody else from your delegation would be able to attend and hear that discussion. Any other discussion or debate on Councillor McLean's referral motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. We had no other delegation business. We do have a notice of motion this evening. We get them relatively infrequently, and the intent of a notice of motion is to let council know that a council member is choosing to put a motion directly onto the council table. So, Councillor Tarrant, I'll give you just a second or two to introduce it, because we will have discussion and debate at the subsequent council meeting. So if you'd just like to introduce it.
And just really briefly, so you'll see the motion there was in regards to an item brought forth to community living regarding development of the BMX track that's there. The motion was defeated, but I thought it was important to bring to all of council, because during budget there was a real strong focus on the South Bear Creek, and I particularly thought that this was a really really innovative solution to what's a very key focal point of the part of the entrance to the park, and I thought that this maybe council had $60,000 invested in redevelopment of this park, and administration's coming back saying that redevelopment, as what council was expecting is not quite going to happen, and so it couldn't happen with that amount of money. So they're suggesting something else that may be another good fit. And I thought, since it was a council budget item, that council should have the ability to weigh in on it and see whether that's something we want to fund and cap that project off.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. So we won't have any discussion or debate on the notice of motion this evening. Would just encourage council members, if they wish, they should review the Community Living Committee meeting, which contained the staff report on the issue that Councillor Tarrant is bringing forward. And so I don't. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Tarrant.
And I guess a note to trust that administration will have the appropriate administration here to speak to the report once.
Yeah, fair enough. Considering we won't be at committee, this is a committee issue that's coming all the way up to council. There may not have been council members that have that opportunity to ask questions of the staff that would be relevant. And so either Director Roth needs to have all of the information in his hands and in his head, or the appropriate staff probably need to be here to be able to answer that. But again, the staff report is on the city's website if anybody wants to review that issue. Okay, so that notice of motion is received. This will come back on Monday, April 17th for discussion and debate. Councillor Tarrant will get to make his motion then. And I believe that handles all of our numbered items other than the council member reports. And we'll start off with Council Member Clayton with a report from the Art Gallery of Grand Prairie Board. Councillor Clayton. Thank you,
Mayor Given. Not much to report other than to remind people that this Saturday is the annual art auction. However, this year it's revamped. It's called Pop Goes the Art Auction. There is, until tomorrow, still availability on the pre-VIP dinner in the art gallery. It'll be a very unique event, and then followed by that, starting at 7:30, The Teresa Sargent Hall will be transformed in sort of an art lounge, soft seating, different than prior year's events, and tickets are very affordable at $75 each. There'll be lots of great food and lots of great art, so if you are available, I encourage you to buy tickets online. Thanks.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Councillor Radburn, you had Disabled Transportation Society.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just a couple highlights from the March 23rd board meeting. First of all, we had our board elections. The AGM selects board members, and the board itself elects its chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. Of note, Phyllis Cash is our chair, and Barry Menard, new board member who works for ATCO, is our new vice chair. We also talked about putting a new procedure in place. Well, we didn't talk about it. We voted to put a new procedure in place to ensure all DTS drivers obtain their driver's abstract and vulnerable sector checks annually. We also made a motion to charge clients who consistently cancel trips at the last moment a fine of $5 or a charge of $5, and that will be after a period of education where we try to educate our clients, our customers. And finally, we're looking at there's pressures on our dispatching services, so we're looking at additional staffing at peak service times, and we'll talk about that again next month. Thank you, Mayor Given.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Councillor O'Toole, you had Grand Prairie Regional Tourism Association.
Yes, thank you very much. We did have a meeting on Thursday, March 16th. It was held out at Nighthawk Ski Hill. And for being in the middle of the week, or partially in the middle of the week, the place was packed. They had schools lined up for that particular day, and pretty much every day of the month until the end of the month. But speaking of the Regional Tourism Association, everything's all on board to get their website up on running. There's going to be some vignettes, films or videos, however you want to look at it, throughout there to show different areas of the region. So it could be Shintwaka Days in Sexsmith, or something going on in Beaver Lodge or Hythe. And so that'll be able to be viewed by anybody that gets on the website. We're spending a pile of money to get that updated and looking better and more user-friendly. The term is less clicks to get the information, and that's where we're at. And also there's going to be some flyers and catalogs and stuff like that brought out. So if you haven't got your catalog yet, you probably didn't get it anyhow, because it's not going to be out till the middle of next month, or this month. So there you go.
So don't be concerned.
Don't be concerned. It's going to come.
It'll be there.
It's like the Sears catalog. It's going to come.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. And so I think that handles all of our council member reports from our external agencies, boards, and commissions. So we'll start with Council Roundtable with Councillor McLean. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'll speak to 3 or 4 different items here. I was gone away the last week or so. Some of you might have noticed, some of you might not have, but that's okay. I was gone a couple weeks ago with Councillor O'Toole to AAMDC in the city of Edmonton. We went as well to their fall conference, and this was their spring, and they have a trade show. But just speak to a couple issues that came out of that. The reception for the new government was a totally different tone. They actually are willing to work a lot better, and it was felt throughout the whole room of 600-700 councillors and reeves. It was really amazing, the transition in 5 or 6 months that has happened, and I noticed that quite a bit. And it was really driven home by their president Al. When Brian Mason got up and spoke on behalf of Regional, he wasn't there to, hey, let's listen in, let's get attuned to this. And I thought that went over really well by AAMDC. They did a good job. Speaking to a resolution they made, which I think Mayor Given might know or may not, or will find out, or one of the staff will. One of the resolutions was, we are a non-voting member, but I voted at every one so far because they give me a clicky pad. We can become voting members now. They changed it in the resolution on this conference. Now we'll have to look at that to make sure that I'm right on that, but I thought that was very positive. And we actually had reeves and councillors that come and talk to us where the table we were at and speak to us. We had that before, but actually went out of their way. And as you know, most of our square footage in the city of Grande Prairie, almost half the land is farmland now through annexation. I'd like to see a little bit more in a few years, but for now that's good. So it was a really good conference. We learned a lot, and we need to keep on learning. Another one I'll speak to I went to was the town of Athabasca. I don't think it's a city, but I could be wrong. Very beautiful area. I actually wanted to go to Peace River. Nothing against Athabasca. I've never been to Peace River. But for community energy talk, it was sort of sold out. They had 110 individuals in Peace River. So I had to go to Athabasca. There was about 50 individuals. We're at the Athabasca University, and we're talking about solar power. And there's a lot of people already know what we're doing with Koji's not here, Director Koji, but everywhere I go now, they're talking about our solar buses and what we did and how I achieved it. And it's a big talk. And we should be very proud, but we're just scratching the surface. And I believe the next term of council, we're going to be way more than what we even can imagine now. It's going to be really far. I've been hoping for this since my first term. So it was a really good conference, but a lot of it was on cooperatives. And we got to keep our eye on our own backyard. Chris King was there talking. He even came up and talked to me and said he'd be coming to us. But, I mean, it's out in the open. When we did that thermal study with the U of A for underground, we didn't have any right below our city that was economical. But you may remember the Fox Creek and MD Greenview was a huge resource, and there's one just by Claremont. And there's probably 5 or 7 wells there that has a potential of powering 30,000 homes or more. I can't remember how many. And there could be a cooperation down the road between the county, the city, the MDA Greenview. Could be another triangle of energy. And I think it's a positive thing, since if you look at a power bill, look at the transmission lines, that's where we're paying most of our money. It's not on power, it's on distribution. And another thing I learned at this, ACO Power is the highest in the province, everybody that's charging us for our power. So that was the 2 things I'd like to speak to, I went to. 2 of the other was a couple individuals died in the community that I knew and others knew quite well. One of them was Mac Henderson. He was 87. He was a social worker for many, many years, and we know people are dying in our community and being born all the time, but he was a very strong individual in our community, and he was a well-loved individual. I think he was strong in Rotary, and I'm saying to his wife and his family, he will be missed. And another one is from Grovedale was Jack Garland. I had the personal be able to work with him individually. He was a cat skinner, but logger and operator. And he was in his 80s as well. So we lost a couple of really strong old-timers from our community that helped build it. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor McLean. Councillor Logan.
I'd like to echo what was said about Mac Henderson. He's a good friend of mine. We were always thick at thieves when it came to Rotary. He'll be missed in the community. He was a good man. Had one committee meeting that I wanted to bring council's attention to, which is the Arts Development Committee meeting held at City Hall on March 30th. This is a committee that allots resources to artists, and the bulk of the committee is filled with community members, and I think that's just a very healthy way for this sort of money to be put out. Sadly, there's not any money, I think, left in the committee for now, but a good job by the members of that committee, and whoever originally came up with the design or the layout for the Arts Development Committee. They did a very good job on that. Also want to mention 2 non-governmental societies that just happened to fall in the same week for me this time that I've never mentioned before here at Council, and pay homage to the John Howard Society, who had their meeting on Tuesday, March 28th. They do a tremendous job, I think, with a real emphasis on crime prevention. And PACE, which was the next day, March 29th, and I also sit on their board. And once again, another fine non-governmental organization. I wanted to take this opportunity to wave the flag for these non-governmental organizations do so much good for our community. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor Logan. Councillor Clayton.
Mayor Given, just a couple I'll touch on for tonight. I had an opportunity to attend the Economic Developers Alberta Conference, where Grande Prairie, as you mentioned, was presented with 2 awards, and and Ryan Glavin was recognized as well, so congratulations to him. It was an excellent conference, some really good discussion, and on some levels Grande Prairie is way ahead in other discussions, so it was good to see. As well, I attended the International Day for Elimination of Discrimination. The mayor read the proclamation and spoke, and Councillor Thiessen was the MC. It was an opportunity for people in our community to see many different organizations that help in regards to reducing or eliminating rather racial discrimination. It also gave people from different sectors of our community an opportunity to come out and meet each other and socialize and see what is out there in regards to welcoming new races to our community. So congratulations to the organizers of that event. It was a great event. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just a couple events to note. One was the open house for Council for Lifelong Learning. Excellent event to showcase some of the activities of lifelong learning, and kudos to the organization there for all the great work they do in the community. I was also going to mention, as Councillor Logan mentioned, the Arts Development Committee. It was great to see in my 3.5 years on council. That's the most amount of applications I've seen for the individual arts part of the Arts Development Fund. And yeah, it was great to see such an interest and so many great innovative ideas out there. And it was, it's a shame that we, weren't able to award money to them all. But I think the ones that did receive money, I think were very worthy and will help enrich the lives of Grande Prairie citizens.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'm going to highlight 3 or 4 things, but highlight with the purpose of congratulating and thanking staff for their involvement in a number of events that I attended to in the last couple of weeks. The MOU signing for the Rotary Employment Partnership, the city's becoming an active partner in that program. Community engagement, fentanyl facts was hosted at the Crime Prevention at our city on 99th. And there were some volunteer public members who took a lead in that too, Tyler Savard being one. But it was a very powerful speakers panel, and it was 150 people, and learned a lot. And I think it brought our community together. Hughes Lake ASP, so we had planning staff at the pavilion, Ernie Radburn Pavilion, and providing an opportunity for input in terms of that ASP that's coming forth. So thanks to the planning staff there. Neighborhood Associations mixture. Councillor Thiessen and myself, I was able to bring greetings at that event, but really it was the Neighborhood Association members could come, and there was a panel of our staff. So we had environmental stewardship, we had parks, we had, of course, neighborhood associations, we had crime prevention, and one more, but those are our staff who are sharing these opportunities, these grants that are available to our neighborhood association. Very well received, went an hour over the projected time because people were engaged and were sincerely interested in what revenues were available for them to come together as a community and access and take action with. And also, and this one I think, I hope that Mayor Given will speak more to it, but I attended a wine and cheese reception at the Art Gallery for new doctors. I think it was from 2:15 or so, and maybe Mayor Given can speak to it, but an excellent idea. So accommodations to whomever, if it was the mayor's leadership or whose, but it brought together doctors who have been here for only a couple of years, and I heard time and time again how they appreciate it. We had community representatives there too, and we're able to connect them to those community members, which is extremely valuable. But that community is different than many years ago where they knew everybody, each other. They don't now. So this really was a networking and opportunity for them to socialize and be among themselves, so to speak. So it was well done, and my thanks to the leadership for making that happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Radburn. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. As Councillor McLean had suggested, that I spent most of my last week in Edmonton doing some city stuff. And one of the things that I was very proud of being able to do was go to the Resilience Awards They're the awards presented by the Spinal Cord Injury Alberta. And very thankful to the nominating crew that suggested that the Mount View Neighborhood Association received the Percy Wickman Award. And I had Barry Shawarlock accept the award for the innovative park that they had built in the Perky McCullough Park. So it's a all accessible facility. It's being used quite a bit. In fact, there's not too much time during the day that it's not being used. The neighborhood association all come together to fundraise and make this, and it was recognized by this committee. Also, the top award went to Holly Creighton from Grovedale area. She's been in the newspaper a few times over the last number of years, and it was an honor to be able to give her the award myself at the ceremony. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. I'll try and cover three events that haven't been mentioned or haven't been mentioned in a great level of detail briefly. The first is one that came as a result of a conversation with representatives from the Golden Age Centre. I had an opportunity to meet with them a little while ago about their building, and they suggested that they appreciated getting a chance to talk with me, and they said that it would be even better if I would make a bit of an effort to come and see seniors because they may not get that same opportunity. And so I took that to heart and contacted Grand Spirit. And so since in the last week, I've had an opportunity to go and visit residents from Wild Rose Manor, James Manor, and Heritage Lodge to go and speak with them about city issues and provide them some updates on what's going on with council and to answer their questions. Questions ranged from crime prevention initiatives to back alley maintenance, which is important to some of the residents of some facilities that use their back alleys, to general questions about the local economy, the city's priorities around lobbying for provincial infrastructure and highways, and a whole host of issues. And so I just want to acknowledge and show my appreciation to the folks from the Golden Age Centre that recommended that. That was Mr. Jim Smith, who many council members will know is a long-time volunteer at the Golden Age Centre, suggested that that's something that the city should be doing, and so I appreciated him pointing that out. I had an opportunity to attend Grande Prairie Regional College and participate at their conference for their business administration department. So I was one of the had the opportunity to present a session or two sessions, but just a really great event for the students at Grande Prairie Regional College to benefit from the experience of a lot of different community members. The conference had a number of great guest keynote speakers. Ryan Blay from 910 was one of them. Mike Reeve from Velocity Video was another one. Young people who have done great things with their careers. And then there were a whole bunch of other presentations, and I think they had a slot to fill in, so they asked me to come and fill that slot. But there's a lot of great expertise in our community, and it was good to see that people were willing to share their expertise with these students, and that the students had the ability to, had the opportunity to access that expertise that exists in our community. And so my hat's off to GPRC, the business program, for organizing that. And then finally, I just will address the mixer that we had for doctors. It was actually advertised, or the target was doctors who had been in Grande Prairie for the last 3 years, who are new within the last 3 years. I believe we had about 25 doctors and spouses attend, and then we had a number of other community groups, and the intent was well, I guess the original intent was to help connect these people who are relatively new to our community to the wide variety of options that there are and help them build networks outside of their regular working life. So that was the intent of inviting Grande Prairie Regional College, Rotary Clubs, Grande Prairie Live Theatre, Grande Prairie Art Gallery, and other community organizations to meet the doctors, so the doctors and their families would get a better idea about what was available in our community. The side benefit, and the one that I certainly didn't expect, was exactly what Councillor Radburn mentioned. I think we all heard there that they're so busy in their professional lives that they don't even actually get to meet each other. And whether it was with themselves and the other families of the other medical professionals, or whether it was with the community members from the other organizations that were there, the whole intent was to help build some community so that these people that are important resource to our community feel that they're valued and feel that Grande Prairie is their home. And I think by all accounts, it was a relatively good start. And so certainly appreciated the work of my office in organizing that, Bernie Benson, but also Alberta Health Services and Susan Smith, who is Alberta Health Services recruitment for medical professionals. She literally knows all their phone numbers and all their addresses, and so she made sure that our invitation made it to all of them. And so I certainly appreciate the help of Susan with Alberta Health Services in helping organize that. There was very positive feedback, and it looks like something that could be an annual city event if we wanted to do something like that to help build that connection between these medical professionals in our community. And with that, I think I'll call our meeting adjourned. Thank you.